Let's get into it. 6 defensive coordinator candidates that we've already kind of talked about earlier this morning. Again, get your votes in, guys. We've already got another poll question up. Want to make sure we get everybody's take. So earlier today on the morning show, we went ahead and put a poll question out, and we've gotten a lot more votes in now. 281 votes have been cast here. The Packers have 3 interviews in the works for new defensive coordinator. All right. If you had to choose between the 3, who would your pick be for defensive coordinator? We let that kind of sit out there, let it saturate the market a bit, if you will. And it's unanimous. Of the 3 choices, Christian Parker, the passing game coordinator, DB coach in Philadelphia, okay? Daronte Jones from Minnesota, passing game coordinator, DB coach in Minnesota for our boy Brian Flores. And then Jonathan Gannon, the former head coach for the Arizona Cardinals, also the former defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles when they had that great defense. Still have a solid defense, but obviously had a great defense under him as well. So the results came in. Christian Parker ran away with it, 64.1%. Guys, I think this is huge. I'm starting to feel, and it's early in the process. There's a lot of other guys we want to interview. We're going to talk about 3 other kind of long shot candidates, and we'll talk about why they're long shots. That's what you guys are currently voting on right now here on YouTube. But, you know, those guys are kind of long shots. It'd be a dream if you could land them, right? These are 3 that seem pretty darn realistic. Now, they're getting multiple interviews across the league, obviously. Christian Parker's starting to feel like that might be the guy. I mean, this is the second time he's interviewed for the DC spot for the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, last time went in a different direction. So I'm really starting to really perk up a little bit on Christian Parker, like this might be the guy. So again, he runs away with this particular poll question here that we have on X. So what I want to do is take those 3, right? Those 3 that have been voted on that we have already interviewed. Okay, so Christian Parker wins that poll question. Now, let's shift gears. And I just put this poll question up not too long ago, so we'll see how many votes we got. We're up to 171. That's a pretty decent sample size of the long shots, if you will, the guys that are a little more established, or maybe the guys that are I'll explain why each of these are a little bit harder to maybe sign, okay? Which of these 4 choices would you prefer to have as the Packers' new DC? Number 1, Brian Flores. Obviously, he was the defensive coordinator for Minnesota. If you're going, whoa, Clay, that's a lateral move. No, Brian Flores is a free agent. So why is it a long shot? He could get signed as a head coach somewhere, right? He could get a deal as a head coach somewhere. Most likely that'll happen. So this is really a long shot. Again, that's one of the choices on this poll question. Next, Raheem Morris, the former head coach for the Atlanta Falcons, obviously has a lot of history with the Sean McVay, Shanahan tree, one of the bright young defensive minds from the Shanahan tree, if you will. Okay, so Raheem Morris from Atlanta is another choice. Sean McDermott, the head coach for the Buffalo Bills, which, by the way, if you guys are not keeping up with that absolute crap show up in Buffalo where they're all basically saying it's Sean McDermott's fault for everything that's happened, because Sean McDermott came in and said, hey, I want to change some stuff up with the roster. And they basically said, who the heck are you? So they run him out of town, right? Former Buffalo head coach, defensive coordinator in Carolina for years. So did that so well. I want to say, who was he under down there? You guys help me out in the chat. The former head coach, gosh, it's slipping my mind right now. I think he played for the 85 Bears. Ron Rivera. Riverboat Ron Rivera was the head coach down there, if I remember correctly. Sean McDermott was his defensive coordinator and did a heck of a job down there. That's how he ended up getting the head coaching job, obviously, at Buffalo. That's one of the choices. And then the all-Wisconsin guy, Mr. Jim Leonhard. He's currently the passing game coordinator for Denver. Now, if you're going, whoa, Clay, why is he a long shot? Because passing game coordinator, however, Vance Joseph, their defensive coordinator, might get a head coaching job as well. Now, there's 2 schools of thought here. Some people look at Jim Leonhard and go, oh, we'll definitely have a shot at him. Oh, Brian Flores, we definitely have a shot at him. And then you got other people on the intrawebs that'll tell you, Brian Flores will never be available. Jim Leonhard won't be available. Listen, somebody's got to be available. Everybody we throw out there, you say, oh, he won't be available. There's only 32 teams, Hallscat, and we're one of them, right? So I can't stand that. It's just like draft season. We start talking about prospects. We're like, he'll never be there. Goody would never draft him. Shut up. Like, can we just talk a little ball here, for God's sake? So, with all that being said, Flores, Raheem Morris, Sean McDermott, Jim Leonhard. Here is the vote on X. 214 votes now. Brian Flores, 65%. How much, Emilio? How much did we just say?
Oh, man, I should have been ready for that.
Oh, you're good, dude. You just jumped in here. You kidding me?
Tim would be disappointed.
65%.
65%. That's what we.
So Brian Flores runs away with it at 65% on YouTube, or I'm sorry, on X. We'll check YouTube. Second place, Jim Leonhard from Denver. Third place, Raheem Morris. Fourth place, Sean McDermott. So everybody a little sour on Sean McDermott here, Emilio. That kind of, I don't want to say it catches me off guard, but that's just interesting seeing that he's probably there's only 3 guys on this list, right, who are former head coaches.
Right.
Brian Flores, Raheem Morris, Sean McDermott. Of the 3, I think it's really, really, really safe to say Sean McDermott had the most success as head coach. But people obviously see Brian Flores as a dominant defensive coordinator. I got to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot here, man. Who would you pick of these 4 right here? Brian Flores, Raheem Morris, Sean McDermott, or Jim Leonhard?
Wow. I've been back and forth on this. At first, I was thinking Flores, right, for what happened. And then when they let go of Sean, that kicked around in my head for a while. Just because, he'd been up in the cold, right? He understands what it's like. He understands a franchise QB. He realizes, I think that they just built that defense a little bit too fast for his kind of style. They were kind of a little light in the loafers and tried to play with speed. And I just don't think they had that physicality. But I think actually I'm kind of on Sean right at the moment, but, Jim Leonhard would probably be 2. Flores would be 3, I think, for me. Right at the moment. Obviously, that can change, but I just like the fact that you get somebody that's been through that grind. He got let go, been to the playoffs. I don't know how many times, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, whatever it was. So he knows how to get there. You can kind of bring that mentality with you. I like that thought.
No, I got it, man. And Packer Doug agrees with you. You said Sean, right? Emilio, that was final choice.
Yeah.
Yep. Packer Doug says, I voted for McDermott, defensive orientation, and brings head coaching experience for Matt LaFleur to tap into. That's a huge factor. It is. And, here's the thing, too. Raheem Morris kind of brings a little bit of that, too, a little bit of head coaching experience. Yep. But we all know Raheem Morris, Matt LaFleur, good friends. It's like, do we want to, and I think that is overstated when people say he needs to stop hiring his friends. If you're a great coach, I would rather you have that kind of that personal relationship, that guy that you've been in the trenches with, right, so to speak. So it makes sense. But I do love what you guys said there with McDermott. I think it's very, very interesting. So again, on Twitter, it was Brian Flores 1, Jim Leonhard 2, Raheem Morris 3, and Sean McDermott 4 is the order in which it failed. Now, if we hop over to YouTube, I can't put it on the screen, but I'm going to read it off to you guys. Let's see if it matches here. Oh, no, I screwed up.
Yeah, I was waiting for it.
I left one off. I'm so sorry, guys. So Raheem Morris
forced their hand, Clay. I see what you did there.
Yeah, I was controlling the vote, man. This is the safest, most secure vote we've ever done on PTA. All right. So Brian Flores, 55%. Looks like we got 49 votes in there already. So 54% now, Brian Flores running away with it. Second, Jim Leonhard at 26, which matches what we see here on X. Yep. Then Sean McDermott at 20%. So I imagine a good chunk of the Sean McDermott votes probably would have went to Raheem Morris too. I feel comfortable saying that we've gotten our answer here, Emilio. So before you hopped on, we were talking about the candidates that already interviewed or are set to interview with the Packers, right? And that is obviously Christian Parker, the DB coach there and passing game coordinator for the Eagles, Daronte Jones from Minnesota, same pretty much title there, and then Jonathan Gannon, the former head coach in Arizona. Of those 3, Christian Parker, Daronte Jones, or Jonathan Gannon, which one would you pick out of those 3 there?
When I was driving back, I was listening to Ryan break those down. I think Parker would probably be my lean where you're going, just because you get Quinyon Mitchell, you got Cooper DeJean, a lot of guys that have developed off of draft picks that we were also eyeballing the whole time. And you got those guys to kind of excel. You bring them to the playoffs. Yeah, it seemed like there was a lot more issue on the offensive end than there was on the defensive end with the Eagles this year. They were going through it with their receiver, their QB, coach, all that stuff. But the defense kind of was humming along. And, you got a couple of Georgia guys there. I feel like you can sort of bring that mentality right over here, and it would sort of just slide right in like a puzzle piece. So I would go with Christian Parker there.
Yeah, and I'm just going through X, make sure we're not missing anything new here. I think we're up to date. I want to make sure there were no other interviews scheduled. Sometimes we go live and this stuff comes flying in randomly and rapidly. So again, we've done our research here, right? We've asked the fan base both on X and on YouTube. And of those three groupings, the top choices are Christian Parker from Philly and Brian Flores from Minnesota. Okay. So I like it. And the whole reason I want to do this, Emilio, is kind of fill out the fan base a little bit. How do you guys feel about this? I think those were my top two choices too. Now, Daronte Jones. What's that?
Who was your top two, you said?
Parker and Flores.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had to pick of those two. Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm with Ryan. I've been listening to his breakdown. Parker is really, really interesting. I could see
he's on that climb, right? Where you go out and reach out on someone that's, elevating and better each year, all of that. And he just doesn't have that head coach experience.
Right. And listen, if there's one thing that Matt LaFleur, I think, has kind of learned that proved to be successful, obviously he went and got Joe Barry, a linebacker coach, to be his DC. Didn't work out as well. So you go and get Hafley, who specializes in DBs and passing game coordination, and bang, you've seen some success, right? So probably stay in that same vein there. If you guys are watching this video back later, let us know in the comments, how do you feel about those two choices? Would you be on board with those being your two choices, Christian Parker and Brian Flores, or maybe you've got another two that you like out of those six? And again, I know there's other candidates that people probably like a lot more. I chose them because that's kind of narrowing it down. A realistic, here are the guys and gals, or here are the guys that got or have interviews scheduled, and then of course you got the three that are like, man, we dream, right? Yeah. So yeah. So if you guys are watching this back later, let us know in the comments, how do you feel about those six candidates? Which two would you choose? Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future live streams.